Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film The World Is Not Enough. Since Skyfall is Daniel Craig's third Bond film, I thought I would do the other actors who have gotten the chance to do a third Bond film, and this is the final one before Skyfall at least, with Pierce Brosnan's third film, which is The World Is Not Enough. It has a plot that's very convoluted, but hopefully I will try to explain it, where Bond is trying to defeat a villain played by Robert Carlyle who has been shot in the head and has a bullet in his head and is unable to feel. He's trying to get missiles to destroy the world or something, and there's a girl involved who it's kind of like his henchman who Bond's fallen in love with, and Denise Richards is a nuclear scientist. This movie doesn't make any sense. I think Pierce Brosnan is a great Bond actor. I thought he didn't really get enough good Bond movies because GoldenEye is a classic Bond film. It's one of the best in the franchise. The other three he made were not that great. In fact, Die Another Day I still think is the worst Bond film ever made. The other two, Tomorrow Never Dies and World Is Not Enough, for me are about the same in terms of quality. World Is Not Enough might be a little worse, but Tomorrow Never Dies certainly isn't very good either. I think Pierce Brosnan deserved probably better for what he got. He was a great Bond. He was one of the best Bond actors. I like him more than Roger Moore, frankly, and I wish he had gotten to do more. But unfortunately, he had to do trash like this. This film was directed by Michael Apted, who is responsible for the Up series and actually directed Rome and is a pretty accomplished, good director. The action sequences in this film are very excessive, but can sometimes be a lot of fun, particularly the opening before the theme starts with garbage. It has the traditional, usual opening sequence, and then they kind of go on. They're in England. He has this little thing with Moneypenny, and he goes to see M, and you kind of think this is like a normal structured Bond film, and you almost forget that the theme, you think, oh, did I miss the theme? Is this like a weird edited version or something? And then they keep going, and it's one of the longest cold opens of the Bond series, but I thought it was really smart because of the way it did that whole thing where you're going to see M, and when he's in MI6 and he's there and he has to do this whole action sequence again, it's like, it was cool because they kind of messed with your expectations a little bit, and I thought it was a really well shot, fun action sequence. I mean, but it was incredibly excessive. It was incredibly unrealistic and ridiculous. Obviously, this is the late 90s. Everyone was in a financial boom time, and this is the Bond we get because of it. It's very trashy. It's very excessive. There's a lot of explosions, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You know, even Pierce Brosnan in the Everything or Nothing documentary commented that after GoldenEye, he kind of gets them all mixed up, and really, I feel like that as well. This and Tomorrow Never Dies are always kind of close in my mind. They feel like basically quality-wise the same. I think Tomorrow Never Dies has a better concept than this because this is, I don't even know what the concept is. This is just a Bond movie basically with a villain. He has a bullet in his head. It's all over the place. I mean, this movie would have been so much better if it had more of a simple plot, a simple villain, but since you have basically two villains because you have the guy with Robert Carlyle with the bullet in his head, then you have Sophia Marmot, her being evil as well. There's just too much going on. There are too many characters. This film really needed to simplify what was going on, and it was so excessive and too much all the time that if it had calmed down and been very straightforward, it would have probably been all right. And I think this is directed decently. I don't think it's just very badly written. It's very badly plotted out. I know some people really hate this Bond film. I've never really hated it. I remember liking it when I first saw it in theaters, but I've never had that strong of a reaction to it. I've always kind of felt that it's fun for what it's trying to do, and I think it's a decent enough Bond film. I mean, this is being a very traditional Bond film. It's using the Goldfinger model. It's doing really nothing new. I mean, it feels like a lot of Roger Moore influence. It's just not very original, and it's so excessive. But Denise Richards as a nuclear scientist is particularly ridiculous and stupid, and she's really terrible in the film. I don't know why her character really needed to be in it so much. Denise Richards is supposed to be a nuclear scientist. I don't think anyone bought that one. I think that was just a little too much, and it wasn't fun enough, and it was so dumb that you'd sit around and go, what is wrong with this movie? I know Pierce Brosnan wished and wanted to do kind of a different interpretation of Bond, but within his run, but that's kind of not how Bond works. When you're Bond, your run is kind of has to stay the same. You know, if you look at Connery's changed a little bit, but for the most part, after that, with Moore and Dalton, Brosnan and Daniel Craig, they always try to stay within the same, like, milieu. This was Pierce Brosnan's. You know, unfortunately, he didn't have someone like Martin Campbell, who did GoldenEye, do any other of the films. And they actually considered Joe Dante and Peter Jackson for this film because Barbara Broccoli watched Heavenly Creatures and she liked it a lot and thought Peter Jackson would be good to do The World Is Not Enough. But then she saw The Frighteners and didn't like The Frighteners and didn't use them. I think Joe Dante could have probably had a lot more fun with a Bond film than Michael Apted did. I like Michael Apted. I'm a fan of the Up series, and I think he did a good job when he directed Rome, but there's only so much you could probably do with this film, but it would have been cool if Joe Dante had done a James Bond movie. I can't imagine. I think that would be a lot of fun. From the director of Gremlins, is The World Is Not Enough. I think that would have been cool. This kind of shows like why they needed to redo everything, and it's really not Pierce Brosnan's fault. This is just them trying to make a Bond movie, and you get everything you expect from a Bond movie. You get your gadgets and your girls and your villains and all that stuff, but it just, at this point in the franchise, I think it was getting a little tired, and it would feel a lot more tired and a lot more awful in the next one. But this is certainly getting there. But I don't hate this movie, but it's not by the end I was just feeling really drained. I was like, God, this is still going. Ugh, I mean, this is enough, you know. Oh, that was a bad critic pun. So if you have seen The World Is Not Enough and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to.